You wake up to the exact same alarm clock every single morning. You battle brutal traffic just to reach an exhausting job. You trade your absolute best hours for a fixed, unchanging wage. And in return, your entire existence is measured by a single paycheck. It's a deeply suffocating frustration to feel totally stuck in this endless 9-to-5 grind, knowing you're capable of so much more but remaining trapped in a relentless cycle of just paying bills and barely surviving another month.
Right now, your financial survival is hanging by a single thread. Growing up, you were sold a very specific, comforting narrative. Study hard, get a good degree, and find a stable job. You were told to climb that corporate ladder and just wait for retirement. So you did exactly what you were told. But think about the dedicated manager who gave 20 years to a corporation, only to be downsized during a merger with absolutely zero warning and no backup plan whatsoever. You're starting to realize this traditional path actually leaves you incredibly vulnerable too. Your entire livelihood depends completely on one solitary company. Your long-term security rests entirely on a single manager's fleeting opinion of you. You're constantly walking this dangerous tightrope without any safety net underneath you, just praying the wind doesn't blow.
Well, it's time to completely dismantle this foundational problem. We call this the 100 or 0 trap. For the average professional, landing a massive corporate job feels incredibly safe. 1. That steady illusion of biweekly direct deposits lulls you into a false sense of absolute security. But to the ultra-wealthy, having only one source of income is literally your riskiest asset. Why is that? Because your financial survival is dangerously, terrifyingly binary. You either have 100% of your income, or you have 0%. 1. There is absolutely no middle ground here. If you lose that one job, your cash flow instantly vanishes into thin air. A single corporate decision in a boardroom miles away can wipe out your ability to feed your family in mere seconds.
This brings us to what's known as the great financial sin. It's operating your personal finances like a business that relies entirely on a single client for 100% of its revenue. Imagine a massive CEO trying to run a major corporation this way. It would be considered a completely suicidal business model. Yet millions of smart, capable people live their personal lives exactly like this every single day. If a sudden economic recession forces a massive wave of corporate layoffs, your entire foundation vanishes overnight. If a new AI algorithm suddenly automates your specific department, you are left completely exposed to financial ruin. Even if a new boss just decides they kinda don't like you, your entire life is upended. You're freely handing one single entity the terrifying power to completely destroy your livelihood.
To escape this trap, we need a massive reframe of how wealth actually works. There's one specific asset where everyone is completely equal. From a part-time retail worker to a billionaire like Elon Musk, everyone has exactly 24 hours in a day, 1. If you only trade your precious time for active income, your earning potential hits a rock-solid physical ceiling. Even an elite neurosurgeon charging $500 an hour can't magically work 100 hours a day, 1. The ultra-wealthy operate differently because they completely detach their earning potential from the physical limits of time. Consider a sharp real estate investor who spends 10 hours closing a single multifamily property deal. They build or buy that asset exactly once, but it pays them repeatedly for decades while they sleep, travel, or spend time with their family. Your income absolutely must be divorced from your clock.
Now, what's really interesting is how the data backs this all up. Author Thomas C. Corley actually spent 5 years closely studying self-made millionaires, too. And what he discovered is a truly staggering pattern. He found that 65% of them have at least 3 streams of income. Moving up the ladder, 45% have 4 distinct streams, and 29% have engineered 5 or more separate income streams. 2. The 1% are quite literally operating on a completely different financial frequency. They absolutely never rely on a single paycheck under any circumstances whatsoever. That specific jump from 3 to 5 streams is totally critical because it represents absolute insulation against market volatility. If 2 streams dry up during a brutal recession, the other 3 keep their wealth growing totally uninterrupted. They understand the true mechanics of wealth accumulation by aggressively and relentlessly managing their downside risk. 1.
So let's dive into Principle 1, income diversification. This simply means systematically spreading your financial risk across multiple distinct, unconnected channels. Instead of just earning a base salary, the wealthy build a robust portfolio that includes profit from side businesses, dividend payouts from massive companies, and rental income from physical real estate. They further accelerate this unstoppable growth by generating capital gains from appreciating assets and effortlessly collecting royalty checks from their own intellectual property.
Once those streams are flowing, you activate Principle 2, the compounding snowball. This is the strategic process of using surplus cash to endlessly acquire more income-producing assets. While a normal person's single paycheck is completely devoured by rent and taxes, the wealthy use their standard day jobs strictly to cover base living expenses. They then deploy every single dollar of their side income, like little financial soldiers, into the market, building an unstoppable loop where money simply generates more money.
Beyond just the raw math, this architecture unlocks massive psychological leverage and totally unfair tax advantages. In almost every major economic system, active earned income faces the absolute highest tax rates. Governments actually penalize you heavily for trading your limited time for money. But passive assets, like long-term capital gains and real estate depreciation, are taxed at a significantly lower, much more favorable rate. Plus, there's a profound, life-altering psychological shift that happens right here. Having multiple reliable streams grants you the psychological sovereignty to boldly walk away from totally toxic work environments. When you are no longer chained to a single boss for your bare survival, you gain the ultimate confidence to just say no to bad deals and totally unreasonable demands. You can negotiate your salary from a place of true power, completely and utterly controlling your own professional destiny.
But why doesn't everyone do this? It comes down to Principle 3, escaping mental traps. These are specific psychological barriers that keep working professionals totally paralyzed and dependent on their employer. 1. People get addicted to the comfort zone anesthetic of a predictable paycheck, and they fall for the illusion of specialization that blinds them to highly lucrative outside opportunities. They also suffer from perfection paralysis, falsely believing they need a flawless business plan instead of just launching small, messy experiments that actually teach them what works. 1.
So how do we actually build this out? Here is your calculated 4-stage evolutionary transition blueprint. No one just wakes up with 7 income streams overnight. It's a multi-year journey requiring immense, unwavering discipline. 1. You absolutely must start small and build it up systematically. Stage 1 is to maximize your active engine. Make your current day job produce enough surplus cash to safely and comfortably fund your next moves. 1. Once that solid foundation is set, you enter Stage 2, which is skill income. Use your existing talents to build a robust second stream, like freelance consulting on the side. Stage 3 is asset conversion. Take that newly generated surplus capital and aggressively buy passive assets that pay you while you sleep. 1. Finally, Stage 4 is network and leverage. You invest as a silent partner in other profitable businesses and detach yourself completely from daily labor. 1.
Let's bring this entire architecture together. Relying on a single income is exactly like sitting on a one-legged chair. Any slight push will inevitably send you crashing to the ground. 1. The ultra-wealthy build multiple streams not out of blind greed, but because they absolutely demand a rock-solid foundation for a truly sovereign life. 1. Start incredibly small, build your independent streams relentlessly, and engineer your own absolute financial freedom starting today.